Greetings everyone, it's Kaz here discussing microtransactions and loot boxes in games. Well, the fact of the matter is, everyone's been discussing microtransactions as of late. For the most part, all gamers have been absolutely crapping on them over the past number of days, and that is something I've also done on the channel in the past, as I do not like microtransactions or loot crate systems as a whole, as a practice put into our modern day games, especially AAA gaming. I do not like those free-to-play practices and business models being placed into games that we pay full price for as consumers, and that's simply something I'm not really a fan of. I do have exceptions to that rule, however. So I guess that's what I wanted to do today. I just wanted to kind of throw out my opinion on loot boxes and microtransactions, and also discuss something in particular that has been brought up this week as well in regards to loot boxes, and that is asking the question, are they considered gambling, or should they be considered gambling? So I want to read an extract from a PC Gamer article. I will leave it in the description down below, so do check that out. But I want to read an extract from it to kind of, I guess, set the scene for what exactly I'm going to be talking about today when it comes to loot boxes, microtransactions, and gambling in video games. Randomness is an inherent aspect of any video game loot box. Maybe there's something good inside, or maybe you get stuck with something you've already got 16 copies of. But you do get something, and that, according to Kotaku, is why the ESRB, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, which categorizes games released in North America from quote-unquote early childhood to quote-unquote adults only, does not consider them to be a form of gambling. Now here is the quote from the ESRB themselves. While there's an element of chance in these mechanics, the player is always guaranteed to receive in-game content, even if the player unfortunately receives something they don't want. We think of it as a similar principle to collectible card games. You'll open a pack and get a brand new holographic card that you've had your eye on for a while, but other times you'll end up with a pack of cards you already have. So that's what the rating board ESRB had to say about it. They believe microtransactions aren't gambling, essentially because you are always guaranteed something from them. So I want to run this down a bit. When I first saw this news that broke a few days ago about loot boxes and about the ESRB's opinion on them, I immediately thought to myself, well, that's a load of crap, because I always, I guess, semi-associated these loot box practices with gambling, and it really just made perfect sense. The fact that they were gambling. They are essentially slot machines, and a lot of people have also been drawing that comparison as well. This is so plainly, obviously gambling. But of course, I didn't want to freak out like everyone else does on the internet by just simply reading a title. So when I looked into the article, and in that statement, when they drawed the comparison and the contrast to a collectible card game, at that moment, I realized, wow, that's actually a fair point. I'd never really thought of it that way, to be honest with you. And I've now taken the opposite stance, where I honestly do believe it isn't gambling. When you gamble, at least in my head of the definition of gambling in my own mind, you are putting money or something, or you are taking a risk, and you're hoping to get a reward that is of greater value than the original investment, whether that be money or an object or whatever it may be. But with loot boxes, everyone that purchases one or chooses to open one knows exactly what they're getting. They know the rarity, they know the chances, I guess most of the time at least, of the items they want, of what they're looking for, just like with a collectible card game. Does that mean I like loot boxes? Not at all. As a matter of fact, I think they're completely stupid. I don't understand, and will never understand, why anyone would ever want to accelerate their own game process, ever. Why would someone want to spend their own real-world money to take away the fun of a video game? In my mind, it's actually kind of like if someone were to purchase a movie perhaps on Blu-ray or DVD or whatever, and then they chose to spend $3 or $4 to skip a few scenes. Why would anyone want to pay money to make the experience less gratifying for you? I think it's dumb, I think it's stupid, and I will never be able to fathom why anyone would do it. Now, I mentioned at the start I do have some exceptions, and that is cosmetics. I don't mind cosmetics because, frankly, they don't affect gameplay. That is where I draw the line with loot boxes. When loot boxes and those microtransactions affect the gameplay, I don't care whether it's a single player game or a multiplayer game. If it's cosmetics only, I'll still never take part in them. I never want to buy them nonetheless, but I'm okay with that. I can deal with that. So I don't like these practices overall, especially when they affect gameplay, but I can deal with them if they only affect cosmetics in the game. Now, as I mentioned, I do not think these are gambling, and I do take the standpoint of the ESRB. However, that does not mean that microtransactions and therefore loot boxes don't encourage gambling traits and gambling mindsets that therefore could affect many people in their lives. It's a really bad problem. We see so many younger gamers in particular that purchase these microtransactions, that spend a load of money on these loot boxes. And again, that isn't gambling necessarily in my mind, the actual action of purchasing that loot box, but that could lead to absolutely horrendous gambling practices, and there is no doubt that purchasing these loot boxes is addicting and could therefore fuel a part of someone that would then later in life wish to do the same thing with gambling and slot machines, etc. Loot boxes could definitely encourage gambling and unhealthy traits and unhealthy practices and habits associated with gambling for anyone who dares purchase them, especially younger individuals out there. It's honestly a really dangerous thing for those younger gamers to be developing those addictive habits with loot boxes so early on in their lives, because later on in life, that could seriously ruin them. So in summary, I don't think loot boxes themselves are gambling. However, I do think that they will encourage gambling tendencies and addictive practices in that manner for many people in their lives. That is simply another reason why gamers need to take a stance against microtransactions, and why I do believe the loot boxes need to be stopped, especially when they're just honestly really stupid in the first place. There is really no real fun benefit to purchasing them. So as always, please leave your thoughts on this topic in the comments section down below. I do know it is one that many gamers, especially at the moment, are talking about, so I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check out some of my other content and subscribe if you like what you see. I'll see you all next time. Do take care and farewell.